sprinkles, Santa Claus's special elf. Because everything is special with sprinkles. Santa Claus knows you're special too, and he has something to say to you. So listen close as Santa Claus shares holiday cheer with you. You can leave a special message for Santa Claus and get on the nice list at www.santaclaussays.net. Now here is the big man himself, Santa Claus!
Ho, 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 ho! Merry Christmas to all the boys and the girls of the entire world who come here to Santa's workshop here at the North Pole to hear Santa Claus say, "Be good, for goodness sakes." Welcome, children of the world, of all ages and situations in life, of every race and creed and color. We welcome you to SantaClausSays.net, where we are about three things. We like to share Christmas cheer, and our elf sprinkle certainly helps us to do that. And I hope that you have Christmas cookies with sprinkles on them to remind you of Sprinkles, our wonderful elf. We also tell a wonderful Christmas adventure story that you're going to want to hear. Today's story is particularly exciting. And then also we like to share about letters to Santa. We want to remind you that you can be in contact with Santa Claus in several ways. You can reach out to me through an email. You can do an email at SantaClausSays.net/present. And there you can leave me an email and I will send you an email back with a present for you. And then you can also leave me a voice message, just like it sounds like. Leave me a voice message or a text message at SantaClausSays.net. You'll see right there on the website, you can have some people help you to navigate that. And you can get there and leave me a voice message or a text message or an email. And some of you may want to go a little bit further and have Santa Claus send to you a personalized video with your name on the video, or have a personalized video chat, a Zoom call. These are some of the things that you can do, and we can have some real fun together. There is our chimes, our Glockenspiel, which tells us that it's time for story time here at SantaClausSays.net. All through the Christmas season, we've been reading this book, The Life and the Adventures of Santa Claus by L. Frank Baum, and he's the author of the book called The Wizard of Oz. And a lot of you are familiar with that in the movie The Wizard of Oz. And a lot of the characters in this book, which is all about me, are reminiscent of The Wizard of Oz. And the good folks at the Gutenberg Project help us to read this book here today. And we have we are continuing to read every day during the Christmas season. So we have shows every day from Thanksgiving through Christmas, and we read a portion of this book every day. So if you miss a chapter, or you miss a section, you can always go back and listen to it on the podcast or on the YouTube channel on our YouTube channel, or on Facebook as well. And we hope that you'll do that. But today, the chapter is called How Bessie Blithsome Came to Laughing Valley. And we started this chapter, it's kind of a long chapter, on our previous episode here at SantaClausSays.net. We're concluding that chapter here today about how Bessie Blithsome came to Laughing Valley. So let's begin. Gathering more of the clay from the bank, he carried the clay to the house. This is some of the clay that Santa Claus used to help make toys. Then with the aid of his knife, and a bit of wood, he succeeded in working the clay into the image of a toy nymph. With skillful strokes, he formed long, waving hair on the head and covered the body with oak leaves, while the 2 feet sticking out the bottom of the gown were clad with sandals. But the clay was soft, and Claus found he must handle it gently to avoid ruining the pretty work. Perhaps the rays of the sun will draw out the moisture and cause the clay to become hard, he thought. So he laid the image on a flat board and placed it in the glare of the sun. This done, he went to his bench and began painting the toy deer, and soon he became so interested in the work that he forgot all about the clay nymph. But next morning he happened to notice, as it lay on the board, he found the sun had baked it into the hardness of stone, and it was strong enough to be safely handled. Claus now painted the nymph with great care in the likeness of Necile, giving it deep blue eyes, white teeth, rosy lips, and a ruddy brown hair. The gown he covered with oak leaf green, and when the paint was dry, Claus himself was charmed by the new toy. Of course, it was not nearly so lovely as the real Necile, but concerning the material of which it was made, Claus thought it was very beautiful. When Bessie, riding upon her white palfrey, came to his dwelling next day, Claus presented her with the new toy. The little girl's eyes were brighter than ever as she examined the pretty image, and she loved it at once and held it close to her breast, as a mother does to her child. "What is it called, Claus?" she asked. Now Claus knew that nymphs do not like to be spoken of by mortals, so he could not tell Bessie it was an image of Necile he had given her. But as it was a new toy, he searched in his mind for a new name to call it by, and the first word he thought of it decided could do very well. "It is called a dolly, my dear," he said to Bessie. "And I shall call it the dolly, my baby," returned Bessie, kissing it fondly, "and I shall tend to it and care to it just as a nurse cares for me." "Thank you very much, Claus. Your gift has made me happier than I have ever been before." Then she rode away, hugging the toy in her arms, and Claus, seeing her delight, thought he could make another dolly better and more natural than the first. He brought more clay from the brook, and remembered that Bessie had called her dolly her baby. He resolved to form this one into a baby's image. This was no difficult task for the clever workman, and soon the baby dolly was lying on the board and placed in the sun to dry. Then with the clay that was left, he began to make an image of Bessie Blithsome herself. This was not so easy, for he found he could not make the silken robe of the Lord's daughter out of a common clay. So he called the fairies to his aid, and he asked them to bring him in colored silks with which to make a real dress for the clay image. The fairies set off at once on their errand, and before nightfall they returned with a generous supply of silks and laces and golden threads. Claus now became impatient to complete his new dolly, and instead of waiting for the next day's sun, he placed the clay image upon his hearth and covered it with glowing coals. By morning, when he drew the dolly from the ashes, it had baked as hard as it had been out in the sun for a full day. Now our Claus became a dressmaker as well as a toy maker. He cut the lavender silk and neatly sewed it into a beautiful gown that just fitted the new dolly. And he put a lace collar around her neck and pink silk shoes on her feet. The natural color of baked clay was a light gray, but Claus painted the face to resemble the color of flesh, and he gave the dolly Bessie's brown eyes and golden hair and rosy cheeks. It was really a beautiful thing to look upon, and sure to bring joy to some childish heart. While Claus was admiring it, he heard a knock at his door. And little Mary entered. Her face was sad, and her eyes were red with continued weeping. "Why, what has grieved you, my dear?" asked Claus, taking the child in his arms. I've broken my tat," sobbed Mary. "How?" he inquired, his eyes twinkling. I dropped it and broke off his tail, and I dropped it and I broke off his ear, And now you're spoiled. Claus laughed. Ho, 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 ho. Never mind, Marie, my dear. How would you like this new dolly instead of a cat? Marie looked at the silk-robed dolly, and her eyes grew big with astonishment. Oh, Taz, she cried, clapping her small hands together with rapture. Can I have a booful, lady? Do you like it? He asked. I love it, she said. It's better than tats. Then take it, dear, and be careful not to break it. Marie took the dolly with a joy that was almost reverent, and her face dimpled with smiles as she started along the path toward home. And that concludes that chapter from the life and the adventures of Santa Claus. I want to invite you to tune in again on our next episode when we have a very, very scary chapter. The chapter is called The Wickedness of Aguas. The Wickedness of Aguas. You don't want to miss that here on SantaClausSays.net. You can have the SantaClausSays.net show every day. It's on podcast at SantaClausSays.net and an Apple Podcast. We're on YouTube. You can go to us at youtube.com at Santa Claus Says, and on Facebook. You go to facebook.com/Santa Claus Says. Be good, and you will find us there. So we love you, and we are with you every way, and we love to tell these stories here about Santa Claus. There's our glockenspiel, boys and girls. That is our tone, our chimes that Sprinkles reminds us that it's time for our letter to Santa. As we have our letter to Santa, reminder that you can write to me, and I will hear or listen or read your letter to Santa. And some of them we might read right here on the show. You can go to SantaClausSays.net/present to leave me a email. And that, if you leave me your email, I will send you a present back to you. Or you can go to SantaClausSays.net, and there's a place right there on the website, a little tab to push, whoop, and you can leave me either a voice message or a text message. And if you leave me a text message, I get my text right here on my purple cell phone, and I will return those to you. But here's our letter for today. Hi, Santa. My name is Joe from Florida, and I would like an e-bike for Christmas this year. I have been good. Well, Joe, I just want you to know that Santa Claus loves you and listens to you, and I hear your Christmas wishes. And remember, surprises is the best thing about Christmas time. So we look for surprises at Christmas. And when you at Christmas time, don't forget to leave old Santa Claus cookies and cocoa. I love cookies and cocoa, and that's what you can do for me. And don't forget, all your other boys and girls, to leave me a message at SantaClausSays.net. There's our chimes again, boys and girls, our glockenspiel, and Sprinkles is reminding us that it's about time to say goodbye for this episode of SantaClausSays.net. We want to remind you of a few things before we say goodbye. You can always leave me a voicemail or a text or an email at SantaClausSays.net. And you can also find out more there about how you can also have a personalized video from Santa Claus to you. By personalized, it means I call you by your name of you, a boy or girl or a family, or maybe even like a company or something like this. I will call you by name and give you a Christmas greeting as Santa Claus in a video, personalized. And there's also opportunity to have an actual video chat with Santa Claus with your family. That means I get on a Zoom call with your family or with your child, and we have a chat about Christmas time. You can find out all about that at SantaClausSays.net. And one more thing, Breakfast with Santa. We do Breakfast with Santa live on YouTube at youtube.com/@SantaClausSays. That is Saturday. That is this Saturday, December 16th, and also Saturday, December 23rd, the day before Christmas Eve. we come on to you live and we have breakfast together live. And by live, that means you get on YouTube and you can actually interact with me. You can leave me messages and we can chat together on the live, and we can do that. And we talk about some of the different kinds of stories about Santa Claus, and we have breakfast together, and we have special things and special things that we do on our breakfast with Santa. So I look forward to seeing you this Saturday, December 16th at 9 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. You check your time zones wherever you're at in the world so you can be with me. Or on December 23rd at 9 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. And you can be with me here at Santa Claus Says. Breakfast with Santa live on Santa Claus Says. You can find everything at santaclaussays.net. It's a pleasure to be with you, boys and girls. Remember, Santa Claus loves you and listens to you, and you can join me every single day during Christmas time of 2023 on Facebook, on YouTube, and on the podcast, all at santaclaussays.net, where we bring you three things that we give you: Christmas cheer, an adventure story about Santa, and letters to Santa. We look forward to seeing you next time here on santaclaussays.net. Until then, remember that Santa Claus says, be good for goodness sakes. We'll see you next time, boys and girls, here on Santa Claus Says. Goodbye.
You're special to Santa Claus, just like sprinkles. Get on Santa's nice list at santaclaussays.net and watch Santa Claus Says on YouTube. Tell him Sprinkles sent you.